It was 11 long years ago that I first heard a song about a boy with scissors for a head. Nintendocore. First it was a joke, then it wasn't, and now it's like nostalgia inception.
1, 2, 3, 4! Little Android Man!
Nintendocore was originally a tossed-off term used by Horse the Band in the early 2000s to describe their blend of hardcore breakdowns and 8-bit keyboards.
Boring with whispers, tiny bunnies, smash those fucking bunnies!
But where Horse the Band's video game connection ended with a few lyrical references to Cutman and the creative use of a Korg, there was a whole slate of bands ready to take the mantle of Nintendocore way more seriously. If you're wondering whether or not this has been the most high-energy research I've ever done for this show, I assure you, it has. That last one was a bit out of place, but I wanted a big finish. Let's talk about how we got here. Yellow Magic Orchestra released their self-titled debut in 1978. Along with German robot dudes Kraftwerk, they helped to pioneer synthpop and additionally built the foundation for chiptune and hip-hop through their unique use of keyboards and arcade game samples. That's Afrika Bambaata's Death Mix, an early bootleg release from the hip-hop originator. YMO's Hosono Horiyumi would go on to release what many consider to be the very first chiptune album in 1984 with video game music. Chiptune, a genre that would take more than one episode to explain and would still inevitably end with someone calling me a shitheel in the comments. The short version is that chiptune blossomed in the 80s, died a bit in the 90s, and has gone on to become a contemporary pop music staple. Artists like Kesha and Snoop Dogg, or the people who write for them, have drawn heavily from the nostalgic sounds of chiptune. Although the results are often a bit closer to bit pop, which is what you sometimes call chiptune when used as non-electronic instrumentation. And Minaguchi are prime contemporary practitioners. And it's here, in the murky 2000s of a bubbling chiptune underground splintering off into pop and hip-hop, that we find Nintendocore. Melding goofy metal energy with nostalgic bleeps and bloops, Horse the Band accidentally kicked off a whole new subgenre when they brought a keyboard to hardcore. Nintendocore itself didn't have a tremendous shelf life. The advantage having released any new music since 2006's super awesome Elf-titled, and it was 6 years between the last two Mini Bosses albums. But from the ashes of this genre rose straight up video game cover bands, and many of them totally rip. Bands like Power Glove carry the torch for hardcore Nintendo worship, but ditch the keyboards in favor of old-fashioned shredding, like Vomitron. But there will always be room in our hearts for 8-bit breakdowns. Nostalgia for nostalgia. Layers in a dream. But if that's all a little too ragey for you, the 1-Ups do pretty much the same thing, but jazz. Do you remember these bands? Do you listen to these bands? Let us know in the comments and share some of your favorite videos. Subscribe to This Exists for new episodes every week. And this is unrelated, but I can't think of another way to share it. There's a guy who does 8-bit covers of black metal songs. Last week's episode was our second ever collaboration with the fantastic Philosophy Tube, where we looked at whether or not you are listening to music wrong. Epic Blur SJC asked an interesting question, which was whether or not that video actually belongs on this channel. So those of you that have been subscribed for a while know that we've been experimenting with some different formats, with some different ideas. Not everything we do is explicitly about music now. We've done episodes about video games, episodes about movies. That was less about a musical trend and more about the, psychology and physiology of listening to music. And I'm genuinely curious to get your thoughts. When we do something new, do you like it? Do you hate it? Is that why you came to this channel, or is it going to make you unsubscribe and hate me forever and not invite me to your birthday party? So I appreciate that comment, and as we experiment with the kinds of things that we're covering and the way that we're covering them, I'd really like to know what everyone thinks. So thank you. Ragnar1999 asks about music that is intended to sound bad, like black metal, which he listens to on cassette on his Walkman. And that's actually a really interesting idea, and one that we have yet to explore on this series is lo-fi music and what the intention is when you are deliberately producing something that isn't supposed to sound great. And I don't really know that I have the answer to this question because I haven't researched a whole episode on it, but it's a really interesting idea and one that I hope that we can explore in the future. Last week's episode touched briefly on John Hinckley, who attempted to assassinate President Ronald Reagan because of his obsession with Jodie Foster, and he also wrote poetry for Jodie Foster, which, as David Sutter pointed out, was used by Devo on their album Oh No It's Devo for the song I Desire, which meant that they had to get permission from Hinckley, and then Warner Brothers, their label at the time, had to pay Hinckley to use his words. They were included in the lyrics, he was given a credit on the song, and it was not uncontroversial, but a great piece of musical Hinckley history that we did not include in that episode. LSD is Good For You was very excited that I had an accent and then made a secondary comment when apparently it came out quite strong in that video, which is interesting. I'm sure most people that have accents don't think they have accents, but I really don't think I have an accent. I'm from Toronto. My parents are from Toronto. Do you think that I have an accent? I don't know what you're talking about. That's how you say it. Brett Courtwright wanted a shout out, so what's up, Brett? And wondered if dubstep is bad for activities. I don't know what activities you're talking about, if that activity is dancing awesomely or enjoying a subwoofer. Great for those activities. If that activity is hanging out with your mom and talking about, how sad you are that your father is dead, that's probably great. Yeah, it's awesome. This week's book thing that I feel like I should give a name to, like the Cool Guy Book Club or something totally sweet. If you're watching this far in the video and you have a suggestion, please make one, is David Kushner's Masters of Doom. It chronicles the rise of the creators of Doom and Wolfenstein and Quake, their company, the offshoots, the impact that had not only on the video game industry, but culture as a whole. I mean, obviously, this was one of the most popular games of all time, Doom and Quake and Wolfenstein. But they had far-reaching implications that obviously reverberated well beyond the walls of video game culture, and it was a fascinating look at a very interesting time in cultural history and in technology's history. So Masters of Doom by David Kushner, excellent book.